Gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Corner Office. Some may call this the best night of the year, March Madness Eve. I'm super excited, Jack. What about you?
Yeah, I'm super pumped. The games start at noon Eastern time tomorrow, I believe.
Yep, noon Eastern time.
I think that the rest of my week is basically a wash.
I may never go to class again.
I unfortunately don't have a choice tomorrow. So I will be in class, but I will be paying attention to the games while that's happening. And yeah, you're right. A lot of people have been reaching out to us asking when we're going to come out with this episode. I know my brother has texted me 5 or 6 times being like, dude, I need this episode before I can make my picks. So hopefully this isn't too late. Hopefully you can take some of our knowledge and get it into your bracket. And hopefully we make a lot of the right picks. Last year we were painfully off. And a lot of people also were. Yeah. So that made it a little bit better. But we're hoping to make some better picks this year. So basically what we're going to do today is I'm going to pull up a bracket on ESPN and we're going to fill it out from start to finish. And if you want to tail us. If you don't want to, that's up to your own devices.
Jack and I have also made 2 completely separate brackets thus far that we have not discussed with each other.
We haven't talked about it at all. So you're going to be hearing our raw, unfiltered takes on each team.
Live, real time, who is going to be the national champion. And I've watched a lot of college basketball this year. I have a pretty good feeling about knowing what's going on right now. But, that illusion will be shattered in about, at 12. So, but yeah, I mean, I think we should just get right into it. It's going to be, we're going to be making picks. So there's a lot to get through. 63 games in March Madness, and one thing that I just want to touch on before we start is that I've seen this thing about the NCAA potentially looking to expand March Madness. I think it's a horrible idea, and I was just wondering if you had a thought on that.
I've
making
seen
the tournament bigger.
I've seen conversations as well. I've seen some college basketball analysts be really upset regarding around this topic, and I agree with them. It's the best tournament in the world.
Agreed.
And I don't know why you would change it at all. When you look at the college football playoff, it needed tweaking. It needed to be changed. This doesn't need to be changed at all. It's an age-old tradition that happens that everyone is already looking forward to. People who don't watch games of basketball all season tune in to watch this. So I think that it's a horrible idea. I think that they should just keep it the way that they are. But
it's the whole don't mess with a good thing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and it's been around for so long. I don't see the purpose in making it any bigger than it already is, and greed and whatnot. But either way, we're super excited to be here. We're super excited to be giving you these picks, and you want to just take it right away.
Yeah, so I'm going to say before we get into it, make sure that if you're listening to us on any podcast surface, tune into our YouTube, the Corner Office Pod. You can find us there. It'll make the visual a lot easier, being able to see what teams we're talking about. And so without further ado, bear with me here. I'm going to try and share my screen so that we can get right into it.
Let's do it. New software we're trying out. It's not really new, but the share screen aspect is not something that we've done before.
All right, you got me?
Yeah, I see you.
All right, let's start in the East. Okay. Top left here, UConn versus Stetson. I feel like this one's pretty straight up.
Yeah, I don't think that there's going to be a 16-1 upset this year. I think that's the general consensus. UConn is looking like the best team in the nation. They're the number 1 overall seed. They'll win this game.
FAU Northwestern.
Crazy game, honestly, I agree. In my opinion. Styles really clash in this one. FAU plays a faster pace than Northwestern. Northwestern is missing their starting center right now. But Boo Buie is a fantastic player. I think he's either second or third team All-American this year. But that being said, FAU has returned a lot of great players. John L. Davis is one of the most underrated players in the tournament, again, coming off that Final Four run. They have that whole starting lineup back. For me personally, I think FAU is going to get this one done.
Yeah, I agree. Again, as you said, Boo Buie, one of the best players in the nation. But I think FAU takes this. And I have a friend who goes to FAU, so I'm going to be supporting that.
I think Northwestern's a bad matchup for FAU.
San Diego State versus UAB?
I see San Diego State winning this game. UAB won the tournament, the American East as the 4 seed. I mean, Eric Gaines is a very athletic wing. They have some good players, but San Diego State, led by Jaden Ledee, is one of the best defenses in the country, and I think that this game will be played at their pace, and thus they'll get this one done.
Yeah, and UAB is one of the more most overseeded teams in the tournament this year, according to KenPom statistics.
I agree.
San Diego State plays like a Mountain West. Are they in?
Yeah, Mountain West. But they're also like they finished 5th in the Mountain West, but they were also probably the most tournament ready team coming out of the Mountain West, unless you count New Mexico State, which I think we'll get to later. But I do think San Diego State will win this game.
All right, moving on. Auburn over Yale is what I have.
Yeah, Auburn is a great defense. Yale was a good team this year, but certainly cannot keep up with Auburn.
BYU versus Duquesne, moving now into... Oh, I'm sorry, we're still in the East Conference.
Yeah, we're still in the East. Look, I like BYU in this game. I think that their 3-point shooting is really good. I wish that I could say that there are more upsets in this side of the bracket. It should be noted in the East, there are 4 conference tournament winners. There's the Big East Conference tournament winner with UConn. Illinois is the Big Ten champions. Auburn is the SEC champions, and Iowa State is the Big 12. So,
and UAB, as you said, Morehead State's one. Yeah, all the younger, or all the
smaller
mid-majors,
ones are too. But like there are 4 high major Division I champions in this single side of the bracket. It's kind of the bracket of death. But that being said, I think BYU is going to beat Duquesne. Duquesne, another team that seems to be a bit overseeded, in my opinion. They were 7th in
A10.
The A10, yeah. So, I mean, I don't really see them putting up much of a fight here.
Yeah, and BYU spent a lot of the year ranked.
Yeah, I agree.
Pretty straight up. Illinois, as you said, over Morehead State. I actually think that Morehead State could pose some troubles to Illinois. This would be my first game that I would look at and say, this has a lot of upset potential. Morehead State has one of the highest efficiency offenses in all of college basketball, play at a really high pace, score a lot. Illinois plays more of a Big Ten style of basketball, isn't quite as high scoring. So this one's on upset watch for me, but I'm going to hear your take before I lock the pick in.
Illinois is going to win, in my opinion. I think Coleman Hawkins will do a lot to shut down Morehead State's bigs. And Terrence Shannon Jr. is really going to be the difference maker. He's coming off a scorching hot Big Ten tournament where he put up a career high and a tournament high 45 points, I think. He's been fantastic thus far. He looks like he's going to be a player that is in contention for Tournament Player of the Year this year. And I don't see Illinois losing this game. They have too many weapons for this Morehead State team.
All right, Illinois lock it in. Pretty chalk so far, as you see. Actually, really chalk so far.
A lot of starters.
I think that'll end here. Washington State versus Drake. Drake, to me, seems to be a team that is always tournament ready. They went on. I mean, I know that they got a win in the first round last year. They have a proficient scorer in Tucker. What's his name?
Tucker DeVries.
Yeah, and I think that they'll be able to get it done versus. Seemingly weak Washington State team in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, they came second in the Missouri Valley. Washington State was a ranked team to start the year. But that being said, I actually do like them to upset Washington State. I think it's a good matchup for them. Tucker DeVries is going to be a guy that, he may be cut from that same cloth that a guy like Max Abmas is cut from, right? Where he's a tournament legend on one of these small teams. And they've been in the tournament a lot and haven't been able to get it done. So I would lock them in as my first upset at the 7-10 there.
And then to wrap up the Eastern bracket first round matchups, Iowa State versus South Dakota State. I don't see the Jackrabbits getting this one done. We've talked about Iowa State before.
Yep.
Very
second best defense
ready
in the country.
Yeah, very defensive minded. I think that they move.
I agree. South Dakota State, I think, is pretty good. I think they're an underseeded team, but Iowa State will win this game.
All right, into the West bracket. UNC versus Wagner. We already talked about it. We don't think that any 1 versus 16s will get upset this year. It seems to be like one happens every season, but let's not forget that never really happened until recent. So,
well, yeah, it was 2018 and then 2023 that it happened. So it's been a 5-year disparity. It's like 2 to 130 something, right? Like, I don't see it happening this year. Even though Wagner, I did watch their game against Howard the other night. They seem like they have some weapons on that team, but UNC will get this game done handily.
Michigan State versus Mississippi State. I watched Mississippi State play the other day. They don't necessarily inspire confidence in me. They're an SEC team that is one of those teams that could just win on any night, lose on any night. Agreed. Michigan State is always good in the tournament, regardless of seeding.
Yeah.
They've shown that year after year. They went against Kansas State last year. They went real deep as, in my opinion, an overseeded or underseeded team. And I think that they'll get it done in this first round.
I agree. I think people are shocked that Michigan State's in the tournament at all, which is a very valid take considering the year that they've had. But that being said, with the weapons they have, Tyson Walker, it's hard to bet against Tom Izzo in March. He as like a 9 seed, he has like an 8-2 record in March, I think, something like that, in the first round. So like, I don't really see them. I don't see them losing this game. And even though they haven't been able to put it together, they were a top 4 ranked team going into the preseason. So it's all about getting hot at the right time. And they forced Purdue to a really close game the other night in the Big Ten. I think they win.
St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon, very defensive matchup.
Ooh, yeah. If you were to take a 12-5 upset, I think this is your one. GCU has been really good this year. That being said, I think St. Mary's plays a slower style and we will be able to dictate the game better. We're getting to the 12-5 upsets that I kind of like, but that being, I just don't see St. Mary's losing this game coming off winning the Western Conference or the West Coast Conference Championship. But GCU, they've been a fun team all year. They play a bit of a faster style versus St. Mary's defensive-minded, take some time off the clock. I don't see anybody stopping Mitchell Saxon on St. Mary's on that Grand Canyon University team. And for that reason, I think St. Mary's will get this one done.
I think so too. They actually seemingly handled Gonzaga in the Western
Coast Conference.
Western Coast Conference.
WCC.
In the final in Las Vegas. Grand Canyon, again, honestly fairly similar style to St. Mary's, but not quite at the same execution level. This one is a highlighted one, along with what was the upset I said earlier? Illinois and Morehead State.
Illinois and Morehead, yeah.
Keep an eye on this one too. It should be a close game, very low. I wouldn't be surprised if the two teams combined for under 100 points.
Yep.
But I'm taking St. Mary's. And moving on to the next one. This is another one of those games that I'm looking at. Could be a on upset watch. Charleston has been very good in the past. I actually like them to win over Alabama in this game.
You do? Okay, interesting. I personally, my gut says to go with Alabama, but I don't hate your take on taking Charleston here. We just talked about the game before being a little bit more low scoring. This game could be in the hundreds. Like, Alabama has not played defense all season. They've been one of the worst defensive teams in the country. And Charleston is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. So, like, defensively, if they can't stop the three, Alabama's going to be in a lot of trouble. Now, that being said, the weapons that Alabama has in Mark Sears and Grant Nielsen, Nick Pringle, like, they have really good offensive pieces. And although I don't really see them making a very deep run, I think that they'll be able to get over the hump against Charleston.
I'm going to take initiative on this one and put Charleston over Alabama just because we've been very chalk so far.
Yeah, I like it.
I think that if you catch Alabama on an off night, which they have been historically in not only the SEC tournament, but in past national tournaments.
Yeah.
I think that Charleston gets it done here and goes against St. Mary's. And that would make for a very interesting matchup in the second round. Moving on, New Mexico versus Clemson. Again, like the upset here, New Mexico's very ready to play in the tournament. And I don't think that this Clemson team is really ready to play in the tournament. Obviously, they have Hunter...
PJ Hall.
Yeah, PJ Hall. Sorry, that's what I was looking for. And and Joseph Girard. So I think that New Mexico State gets it done over this Clemson team. They're a lot like Alabama in the sense where, sure, they can win on any night, but they can lose on any given night. And they have proven that in the ACC so far. So
I agree. I 100% agree. I like this New Mexico State team a lot. They just won the Mountain West, and Jaden House is having a great year this year. I don't see them. This is the upset that I would like write home about. Like, this is the one that I feel the most strongly about happening in the tournament right now.
Talk to me about Baylor versus Colgate.
Baylor will win. Colgate is a team that has been in the tournament 4 of the past 5 years, I think 4 straight years, and they haven't gotten a win thus far. I mean, they were more of an upset candidate, I think, last year than they are this year. And Baylor is a very young team with a lot of very good pieces, so I think they'll be able to get it done. I also think that Baylor is coached better than this Colgate team is. Even though Colgate has a lot of tournament experience, it's not a lot of deep tournament experience.
So let's talk about the next game, Dayton versus Nevada. This is one that I've actually talked about with a lot of friends. This should be a good one.
I agree.
Dayton out of the A10. Watched a lot of Dayton this year. Beat my GW Revolutionaries multiple times this season.
Wow,
so did everyone.
Way to be PC right there and go revolutionaries instead of colonials.
It's the opposite way around. We are now the Revs.
No, I know.
Oh, yeah. But Nevada also historically good in the tournament. Obviously, the Martin twins came from there. Yep. Undrafted guys, but they were chippy in that tournament.
They were also finished second in the Mountain West this year. Had a very good season. And personally, I like Nevada to win this game. I think Deron Holmes on Dayton has played very well, but they've been a fringe team in the top 25 this Dayton team has all year, and they didn't really play that inspiring in the A10 tournament.
Not at all.
So I think Nevada, a team that is coming off a small loss to, I think they lost to New Mexico State in the semifinal, will get this done. But I think that this is going to be a really good game.
And to close out the West Conference, let's talk about Arizona versus Long Beach State. Long Beach State has a prodigy of Last Chance U basketball, or at least used to.
Yeah, they don't anymore.
They don't anymore. It's just the only reason. Yeah, Joe Hampton is just the only reason that I know about Long Beach State. I think Arizona will win by 30.
Yeah, Arizona should win. They haven't played fantastic basketball these past couple of weeks, but they have too many pieces.
All right, so moving on into the Midwest section, let's start with the number 1 seed, Purdue versus the winner of Montana State versus Grambling State, which I'm actually watching right now.
Who's up?
And I can't tell because my computer's in the way. Montana State's up 3.
You know what? I like Montana State. No. Give me Purdue here. They're not going to get embarrassed by a 16 seed again, in my opinion. Zach Edey has played like the best player in college basketball this year, and their guard play has vastly improved. Like Fletcher Lawyer's taken a big step. Mason Gillis has taken a big step, and I'm killing myself that I'm blanking on his name. But their transfer from the Salukis of Southern Illinois has been really good. So that being said, I think Purdue will win this game.
All right, moving on. This game is very interesting to me. Utah State versus TCU. I'm taking Utah State. I've liked the way that they've looked all season long. And
Agreed.
I honestly don't know much about TCU.
Yep.
But I think that'll be a really good game.
Lance Jones from Purdue. Sorry, guys. But yes, I think Utah State will win this game. Again, I don't think TCU's really played that inspiring this year, but they came from a really good conference.
All right, so we talked about 12-5s earlier that really catch our eyes. This is the one that catches my eye.
Yep.
McNeese has played great offensive basketball all season, and everyone knows that Gonzaga is a defensive first team this year. They don't quite have the star power that they've had in past seasons. They don't have any Chet Holmgren or any Nembhard brother or any Corey Kispert.
Awesome. Anton Watson has been really good for them.
Right, but it's not quite the same that it has been.
Level. And Graham Ike has too. But yes, this first round draw for them is probably the worst case scenario if you're Gonzaga. And I also think it's the worst case scenario if you're McNeese State.
It's definitely a fire versus ice kind of battle here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like this Will Wade-led team. It should be noted that Will Wade has coached high major basketball before. He has high major players on this McNeese State team. I think Gonzaga is being vastly underrated in this game. I think a lot of people like this as their 12-5 pick. I personally like the Zags to win here. But that being said, if you were to pick McNeese State, I don't hate that at all. You know what I mean?
And we're going to. We're going to take McNeese State.
All right, fine. We're going to take McNeese State here. Personally, I don't love it, but this is going to be a fantastic game in my opinion.
Another one that's going to be a fantastic game in my opinion, and might be, it might not be expected by a lot of people, but I really think that this Kansas versus Samford game is going to be good. Samford has shown that they can win close games.
Agreed.
They know what it takes down the stretch, and this Kansas team has shown that they can, they've really, in my opinion, not met their expectations this season, especially with guys like Hunter Dickinson coming in.
Certainly not. Kevin McCullough is out for the tournament. He is their most valuable player. And Hunter Dickinson is questionable with a shoulder injury right now. Yeah. So I have Samford winning this game.
I do too.
They played horribly without the two of them in the Big 12 tournament. And yeah, that'd be a really interesting second round matchup to have McNeese State versus.
It really would.
That'd be pretty cool.
All right, moving on. Again, this section of the bracket is wide open. This is another game that to me could really go either way. I like Oregon against South Carolina. South Carolina looked real good, but Oregon plays a nice Pac-12 style of basketball. They just score at a high rate.
Pac-12 championship as well.
Exactly, and they're hot.
A lot of really good freshman play from Jackson Shelsted and Kwame Evans. And yeah, I think this Oregon team is heating up at the right time and is primed to make a run here.
So this next game, I feel like it's pretty straight on. Creighton versus Akron. I think we're all taking Creighton.
Creighton should win.
Although that one is highlighted for me as a game like, who was the team that beat Virginia last year? The Scarlet or the Knights? Furman, yeah. No one expected Furman to win. They came out and won. I think that no one expects Akron to win, but that is one that I don't think that they'll win, but it could be a surprise.
I think Akron is solid, but I think Creighton is really good this year. I love Creighton in March. I think Trey Alexander, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and Baylor Shireman is a pretty great front three to have. And although their guard play would have been a lot better if they had Nemhard still on the roster, who transferred to Gonzaga, and I think that they would be a legitimate Final Four contender, and I still have them going very deep this year. But that being said, I love Creighton. Again, I liked them a lot last year, and I really like them this year too.
All right, moving on to this next game. I don't think this is really going to surprise anyone. Watched them play last night. I have Colorado State over Texas.
Me too. Yep, same. Texas has not played or performed well this year in
and Colorado State has. They were ranked for a small period of time.
Played very well. And they beat UVA last night, so they're coming off of that victory, looking to get another one done.
And Tennessee versus St. Peter's, we haven't had a 15 beat a 2 yet. That seems to happen a lot more often than the 16 versus the 1. I don't think that it'll happen here. I like Dalton Connect. I think that they're going to play well and beat St. Peter's.
Yeah, I don't love this Tennessee team, but they're going to win that game.
Moving into our final quadrant here, before we get into the round of 32 and the subsequent rounds after that, I have Houston over Longwood. I don't really think that has to be talked about at all.
No debate.
I have Nebraska over Texas A&M. Nebraska's played great basketball this year. Haven't really been talked about as much.
Yeah. I like A&M a lot this year, though. I think they're very good. But I think Nebraska's going to win. Kiesi Tominaga, we're rooting for him.
And then this matchup has been screaming to me, and I've been waiting to get to it the whole time.
Yeah.
The Wisconsin Badgers versus the James Madison Dukes, I believe their mascot is.
Yeah, James Madison Dukes.
And James Madison has had a great year all around for sports. Started their season off by having one of the most incredible games of the season.
Yep.
And I think they have what it takes to get it done versus this Wisconsin team. But again, this Wisconsin team has just beaten Purdue recently, about a week ago.
Yep.
But I think that James Madison is coming in with that confidence of, hey, our football team did this. Our basketball team did this at the start of the season. Why don't we go out there and make our name in the tournament? And I think that they'll do so by beating Wisconsin.
Yeah, James Madison's the fun pick here, and that's why I'm going to rock with it. I have James Madison winning this game as well. I don't really like Wisconsin this year, even though AJ Storr is a really good player. But yeah, I like James Madison here to win this 12-5 matchup.
And I think that we're both taking Duke over Vermont. Fandom
Correct.
pick.
Even though we don't love Duke.
We don't love Duke, and Vermont actually was not very inspiring in their conference championship against UMass.
They weren't great this year.
Another game that is just one team's hot and one team's good. Texas State versus NC State. I think that NC State's cooking at the right time. I think that they're going to have Texas Tech.
No, you're good.
I think that they are going to have the entire college basketball world supporting them. And that is why I'm taking them over Texas Tech. Teams like that get hot, and they continue to stay hot throughout.
Yeah, me too. I love this Texas Tech team. I love this NC State team. I don't know why I said Texas Tech. I think they're hot at the right time. And even though this is a really tough draw for them, because Texas Tech, as you said, is a good basketball team, I don't see anybody on that Texas Tech roster that's going to be able to stop DJ Burns, who is the guy that NC State goes to late in games.
Kentucky over Oakland. Not much to be said.
Yep.
I actually like Florida to lose in the winner of Boise State versus Colorado in this game.
I do too.
Florida's best player is injured.
Yep.
Which means that they are missing that spark and will have to turn to other guys who may not be as experienced. I have Florida losing to the winner of whoever it may be.
Yep.
And then I have Marquette beating Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky is actually a fairly decent team historically, but I don't think that they'll beat Marquette.
Yeah, Tyler Kolek will be back for that game, and they will win.
All right, so let's kick it back to the East.
Here we go.
We're now in the round of 32.
Yep.
Thank you to all of you who have stayed through that potentially arduous first-round matchup segment, but now the game should start to get better, and this is going to be a great one. UConn versus FAU.
I agree.
It's a 1 versus 8 seed, but they're two teams who have a similar play style in the sense that they score a lot of points every game, and their defense isn't necessarily fantastic. I think this one will be a high-scoring game. I really do want to take FAU, but I don't think that they'll do it. UConn looks great. I think that they'll move on.
Agreed. I'm taking UConn here. I think FAU's magic has run out.
So the next one, San Diego State versus Auburn.
Great game.
Great game. Auburn, as you said, second best defense in the country, but San Diego State is a team that has proven that they're tournament ready. As I mean, them and FAU were the two sleepers last year.
Yep.
I think that I am gonna go with San Diego State over
I don't
Auburn.
like that at all. Auburn will win against San Diego State, in my opinion. Broome is the best player on the court in that matchup, and the winner of Auburn versus UConn, which is what I'm expecting to be in the Sweet 16, will go to the Final Four. Whoever that is.
All right, let's move on. BYU versus Illinois. We've already talked about both these teams.
Yeah, bad matchup for BYU. Nobody can guard Terrence Shannon on that roster. I'm taking Illinois in that one personally.
All right,
you like
moving
that?
on.
Are you with that?
I do. Yeah, I know. I like it.
Okay.
I think that BYU is good enough to win their first round, but I don't think that they're any better than that. I think that their ranking's very accurate at 6. I don't think that they'll move on any further than that.
Okay.
I don't really want to stay chalk here, but I do like how Iowa State's playing. Yeah. However, teams that aren't ranked in the preseason and then end up being a 1 or 2 seed do not make it to the Final Four. And the only team that fits that criteria is Iowa State. I think that they are bound to lose at some point in here. And I think I'm going to take them over Drake, but it's not a great matchup for them.
I agree. I think they'll beat Drake because of their defense, but I don't see them going very much further.
All right, moving to the West.
Okay, let's do it.
North Carolina versus Michigan State. I think that this is an opportunity to see our first number 1 seed go down. And I know that I said that about you. Like I said something similar about UConn. It's not quite the same. I think that Michigan State poses a much greater threat to North Carolina than FAU does to UConn. I think that it's a coaching experience thing with Tom Izzo, and not that Hubert Davis isn't experienced, but it's just not quite the same when it comes to March. He's had 1 or 2 seasons under his belt. And yes, they went to a national championship in one of them, but I just don't think that it's going to be enough. I like Michigan State here. I'm going to hear your take before I make my final pick, but I think that it's not crazy to say that Michigan State could end up winning this game.
I think if Michigan State gets through Mississippi State, they'll have that momentum going into this game. And I think Wagner will pose a little bit more of a threat to North Carolina than they're expecting to. And I don't hate this Michigan State pick here. I think this is going to be a really good game that's going to come down to guard play because Tyson Walker and RJ Davis are going to be matched up against each other. But yeah, that being said, I love Tom Izzo coaching in March, and I think that this Michigan State team, again, is underseeded. So the fact that they're in and they're a 9 seed means that they're dangerous. And because of that, I think that they have a really solid chance to win. So if you're willing to rock with that, I'm with you all the way.
I am, yes, and I think that North Carolina seems to have trouble when they have a person who can keep up with the size and stature of Armando Bacot, and B, someone who can not lock up RJ Davis, because it seems like no one can lock up RJ Davis as it stands right now, but at least keep his damage to a minimum. And I think that Michigan State has both of those things, and I think that NC State had both of those things, which is why they ended up on top in that ACC final. So yes, I think that Michigan State beats North Carolina.
Cool.
I also think that St. Mary's takes care of Charleston. Really interesting matchup here. I think that Charleston actually has a better chance in this game than most people would think, but I am going to roll with St. Mary's.
I agree with that.
All right, talk to me about Baylor versus New Mexico. I know that this one's catching your eye.
I want to take New Mexico really badly. I really do. I think that Baylor is a bit inexperienced where New Mexico isn't, and I think that if they beat Clemson, they're going to be hot going into this game. New Mexico State is going to be the team that I'm going to take to the Sweet 16 here. Look, I like Baylor, but I don't love Baylor. And I think that this New Mexico State team has proven all year long that they're the best team in the Mountain West Conference. And that's got to mean something in these big games. I think that they're vastly underseeded. And they're a team that is primed to do some damage. And I think that this is where we're going to see Baylor fall. It's also more fun to pick them.
I agree. I would have said no New Mexico here as well. I mean, we were very chalk in the first round. We've so far been very not chalk in the second round.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. New Mexico State, very experienced. Baylor is quite the opposite. I think that plays a huge role when it comes to the tournament, and I think New Mexico State wins.
Okay. Arizona's going to beat Nevada.
Yeah,
we can just move on.
Colorado State versus Tennessee is a very interesting game to me. I don't think that you'll like my pick, but I really want to roll with Colorado State here. Tennessee's proven that they are very on when they're on, and they're very off when they're off.
Yeah.
And when nothing's clicking, they turn to Dalton Connect and they say, do everything. And I just don't think that they'll be able to do that in this tournament, which is why I like Colorado State, who, if they get through Texas, having just gotten through Virginia, as you've said for teams before, will be hot going into this game, and that's going to mean a lot.
I think I like Tennessee here. I don't think that this is a bad matchup for them. I think that there's nobody on that Colorado State team that can keep up with Dalton Connect. And I like your point about them being hot and cold when he's on or off. But that being said, he hasn't been off very much. And he had a pretty decently bad game against, who was it, A&M?
Yes.
Who they lost to? They lost to A&M?
I think so.
So, like, look, I struggle to find a way to put Colorado State over Tennessee in this game. I think Tennessee will get it done.
All right, we move. This game is going to be great. Oregon versus Creighton, if it shakes out to be that way. I think I like Creighton here. They have tournament experience. They went to the Elite Eight last year. I think that they'll have what it takes to get it done over an Oregon team, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon ended up on top.
Yeah, I'm a Creighton truther. I always kind of have been, it seems like, when it comes to the tournament. I love Creighton in a lot of these games. The metrics love Creighton. I think they're coached well. I think their weapons are good. And I'm not going to pick against Creighton.
All right. We'll move forward into our next matchup, which is seemingly the weirdest one that we have on the board here. McNeese State versus Samford.
McNeese State is better than Samford. That's what I'm saying here. I think Will Wade is a better coach. I think they have better weapons. This McNeese State team is built more like a high major team than this Samford team is. I think that if this is the matchup, which would be awesome to see, McNeese State will get it done.
And then I again, really like Utah State. I like the way that they've played all season. I think that this is Purdue's year where they roll. They seem to have an easy draw. I think that they get it done.
I agree.
All right, into our final quadrant before we move into the Sweet 16. Marquette versus Boise State, Colorado winner. I like Marquette.
I do too.
The next game means a lot to me. NC State versus Kentucky.
Okay.
I think that if NC State gets as far, they're rolling, and Kentucky's proven that they are not quite as good as people think. Like when they are operating offensively at a high efficiency, they're as good as they have been promised that they would be. Well, but the problem is that they are not very consistent with that. So I think that Kentucky could be caught on an off night against a team that is arguably the hottest team in the NCAA right now, which is why I like to take NC State here.
Fine. I'll rock with that. Kentucky is another one of those teams that just can't play defense, and that's going to bite you at some point in the tournament, I think is what it's going to come down to.
Duke versus James Madison. As a Duke fan, I hate this matchup.
I do too.
I think that we could go out in an embarrassing fashion, but I'm going to vote towards Duke.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with Duke.
From a fandom place.
Yeah.
And then I think that Houston beats Nebraska.
I do too. Yep, they have in the season. Maybe don't go off that. I don't know that for sure.
All right. We're into the Sweet 16 now, which means that I believe we only have 8
couple more picks.
10, 11 picks left?
Yeah.
All right, UConn Auburn. Arguably the game of the tournament so far that we have.
Yeah.
I think this will be a great one. It could go either way in my opinion. Auburn's proven that they can beat big teams on big stages.
Yeah,
but I just don't see it happening.
UConn's been awesome, and so has Auburn in the past couple weeks. But I just think UConn is too good. I think UConn will get this game done.
All right, and this is our most chalk side of the bracket by far. Illinois versus Iowa State. These are the
4 teams that won. All 4 of these teams won major top 5 conference championships. Like, it's kind of hard to pick. And to be fair, like, there aren't a lot of upset picks in here. Like, the Drake one, like, yeah, you can make an argument for, but, like, Yale is coming off beating Brown by 4, a team that should have won in the Ivy League tournament. Like, I don't know. I don't like any of the upset picks in this region. I think it's the region of death, and I think that these 4 teams will be the 4 Sweet 16 teams. But
I agree, but March has proven that it doesn't care what your ranking is or what your record is going into it.
Very good point.
This could be, yes, it's the bracket of death, but it could also be our bracket of death.
Correct.
Illinois versus Iowa State. I have a feeling that you're going to go with Illinois. I really like Iowa State in this game, but I think that their luck does run out at some point, and as I said earlier, teams with their background don't make it to the Final Four, historically speaking. I don't think that this year will change anything. I like Illinois.
I do too.
All right, let's get into Michigan versus St. Mary's. Again, to me, another great game.
Yeah, I agree. I think Michigan State, if they beat Wagner, or if they beat Mississippi State and then get UNC done, I think that they beat St. Mary's.
And I agree, and that's a great point to me. New Mexico versus Arizona, battle of the Southwest of the United States. I actually don't like Arizona moving on here. I think that this will be a great game, and I know that Arizona does have the experience, but Arizona historically as a team don't advance very far in this tournament. And they also are one of those teams that get really on and on an off night, anyone can catch them. So, I mean, who really knows who's going to win this game? But I'm going to put my vote towards New Mexico State.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for Arizona here. But I don't hate your pick. If we're going to roll with an upset team, I think New Mexico State is the team to do it with. But let's
take Arizona, because Arizona-Michigan State would be a great matchup in the Elite Eight. Creighton, Tennessee, another one that sticks out. 2 teams with contrasting play styles. I like Creighton over Tennessee too. Book it! We're going straight to the cash counter with this one.
Here we go.
And I think Purdue rolls McNeese.
Yeah, Purdue will beat McNeese State if that is the matchup.
That's a great game that we'll get back to.
Okay.
NC State versus Marquette. I think the NC State's luck's going to run out against Marquette, but who knows? Because a team like that always makes it to the Elite Eight Final Four. And we don't have any team like that so far on this bracket. If you look
Michigan
top to bottom,
State is,
but it's not quite the same.
Yeah,
I do like NC State Marquette as a matchup. I think Marquette's going to be too much.
I agree. I think Marquette will win this game.
And unfortunately, for all the Blue Devils fans out there, Houston's defense is just too good for our guards. I think personally.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to say that, A, yes, we have the experience. B, yes, we have the talent when we're on, but when we're off, we can be beaten by anyone in this bracket, and I think that Houston would take full advantage of that. I like Houston.
I do too.
All right, we are down to the Elite Eight. For the first Final Four berth that will be booked, let's talk about UConn, Illinois.
UConn in all of my brackets is my national champion. I have them going back to back. I don't see that changing here. I personally like UConn to the Final Four.
Yeah, I think that Danny Hurley is the coach of UConn.
Yeah.
I think that he's a great coach. And Bobby Hurley's a great coach at Arizona State too, but they're not quite as good.
Bobby Hurley is a coach. I don't know if he's a great coach.
Great player, at least.
Yeah, great player. Great player.
But yeah, Danny Hurley's done a great job with this program, taking it back from a state where it was definitely having a few down years back to that state of dominance that they saw throughout our childhood. So I like UConn in there. Michigan State versus Arizona. I think that we roll with Michigan State making it to the Final Four.
Okay. It's a big risk.
I think that this is where Arizona gets caught off guard. I don't like that they're this far anyways, but I think that Michigan State, if they beat all these teams looking from start to finish, I think they keep rolling.
It's a big if.
Huge. It's a huge
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Yeah, I've felt that Michigan State is better than they played all year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they end up in the Final Four. So we'll rock with it.
All right. Purdue versus Creighton. I don't think Purdue makes it to the Final Four. I think that they lose in the Elite Eight to Creighton.
I agree.
I think that Ryan Kalkbrenner is actually someone who can take care of Zach Edey, and they have the guard play to keep up with Purdue's guards. So I think that this is a huge weakness for Purdue, and I think that Creighton gets it done.
I do too.
Purdue's not really creative enough to get around teams that actually pose good matchups to their stars. Yeah. And I think that that's why I like Creighton so much here.
Creighton's just like that, dude. I'm becoming a Creighton fan.
I mean, they were good last year. And I hate to say they maintained almost everyone.
Yeah.
All right, Houston Marquette. I like Houston.
Yeah, me too. Their defense is really good. Even though they got blown out in the Big 12 championship, I think this Houston team is still very dangerous.
I think that if we look at our first Final Four matchup, UConn versus Michigan State, I think
UConn wins.
I think that Michigan State's luck runs out. I like UConn. And if we look at Houston Creighton, I know that you're a Creighton truther. I'm a Houston truther. I think that they are honestly my favorite to win this tournament. I've taken them in every one of my brackets. I like Houston.
Cool. So this is the matchup right here. You wanna rock, paper, scissors this up for who's gonna win this one?
I think that we give our takes first before we get too far. I'm gonna talk about Houston. Houston is a team. If you've ever heard of the Trapezoid of Excellence,
yes,
there's this guy on Instagram who has made this theory that teams with the best defensive percentages, along with the best offensive
rating and offensive
efficiency, will make it the furthest. Houston is by far in the top left corner. They exceeded the Trapezoid because they're so good. Mm-hmm. Houston they play a risky style of basketball, which is defense first, which we've talked about a lot of teams so far, but they wouldn't be able to get this far unless they could play good offense as well. Houston plays offense at a very efficient rate. They score on most trips down the court. And they will be a great matchup to this UConn team who scores a lot but isn't necessarily as proficient defensively as Houston. So I like Houston in this game, but obviously you'll give your takes about UConn and then we'll flip a coin.
I think UConn has been the best team all year. They have consistently, aside from one singular outing, been at the top in the top 5, and they're coming into this tournament as the number 1 overall seed. They're coming off success last year. The knock on Dan Hurley before the championship last year was that he couldn't get it done in the big dance. And now that he finally has that monkey off his back, and this team is primed to win. I think that they're in really good shape to go back to back here. Tristan Newton has played great all year. First team All-American. Probably should be Big East Player of the Year. Cam Spencer is a great addition from that Rutgers squad. He averages, I think, 14 points a game for them. You know, you have a guy like Donovan Clingan who steps up into Adama Sanogo's role for this team. And Alex Karaban has taken a massive step forward, not to mention they have guys like Stephon Castle, who's a freshman who has played fantastic for them all year. I just think that this UConn team has been primed to win all season, and they've continued to dominate in games that they're supposed to win. They play really well at neutral sites, and the only knock on them is that they can't win away games, but neutral site games they do great at. So that being said, I think that me personally, if this is the matchup, I like UConn to win it, but man, would it be a really fun game.
All right, so I asked Google. I have a number between 1 and 2. 1 will be UConn, 2 will be Houston, and the number is the one that we will go with. Can you see my screen here?
I can see it.
And generate. All right, number 1, we're going with UConn to win our bracket. This is the corner office bracket. We have UConn winning. Tiebreaker, it doesn't really matter. And yeah, so UConn is the corner office national champion.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that is what's up.
We did that.
Wow. Okay. We just talked about our bracket for the better part of 45 minutes. So if you're still with us, the sun has gone down since we started. Now it's clear that I'm watching TV in the background. But if you're still with us, thank you for staying along. And hopefully that we've helped you, with your formation of your bracket. And hopefully most of our picks are right. This looks to be a great tournament. Last year was one of the best tournaments that we've seen in recent years. And hopefully hopefully we'll be able to, if not replicate, come up with something at least close to the standard that we saw last season. But until then, we will definitely be recording next week with our takes on round 1, potentially round 2 if we don't get it out in time. But until then, this has been the Corner Office, and I'm Jack Byrne.
And I'm Alex Penders.
Cool on 3.